Welcome to In Real Time, where we as Heights Church are inviting you in for real conversations about leading people, organizations, and change in the new normal. We're hoping that our real discussions about our church's journey will help you as you reimagine and rebuild yours. Hello, Craig Sweeney here, and welcome to a new episode of In Real Time, where we're having real conversations about leading people, organizations, and change. And I have a few co-hosts today, so why don't you two introduce yourselves?
Well, hello, I am Cheryl Bangs.
Yes, and you are formerly our executive pastor,
I am, yes.
But still a very cool person around here. She does a lot of really good stuff still for us, but yes, we're excited to have you with us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm Tim. I'm the online campus pastor. I'm also a teaching pastor and oversee a few ministries here at Heights Church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, today is going to be fun. What's our topic today?
Well, we are starting a 4-part series today, and the title is If I Could Do It Again. Basically, we're looking at Monday morning quarterbacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
you know
we-
what? Yes, I wish I could do it again. That's what I wish.
Yeah.
We can't. Yeah.
Right.
Monday morning quarterbacking.
Yeah.
I love that.
Super important.
Yeah, it is. It really is super important. But obviously we can't.
Right?
We can't go back and do it all over again. But we do know that we can learn from things, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can learn from what has happened in the last 2.5 years of pandemic have brought a lot of opportunity to learn.
True.
And but we do need to think about things in a smart way so that we can learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're thinking about the pandemic, we realize that history does have a way of repeating itself. Now, I'm not saying it's all coming back, but remember when we all shut down, we were very sure that we were going to have a grand opening 3 weeks later at Easter.
Best Easter
And did
ever.
that happen?
Well, it did.
No.
Like years later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
literally.
3 weeks.
Yeah,
No,
not 3 weeks.
a year,
for
literally
sure.
a year later.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was nuts. So, but if history repeats itself in any way, shape, or form, there are some things that I would do the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where we're at today.
Right.
How would I, or what would I think and do the same?
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a list that we're working off of here. We're not just shooting from the hip. So what's the first thing that we would think or do the same? What's on that list? What do we got here? Oh, focus on health of the team.
Yes.
All right.
Number one.
Focused on health of the team. So, Cheryl, now you were with me right by my side. You knew everything I knew. You knew where all the bodies were buried.
Yeah.
Because you and I were just, as an executive pastor, you knew all those things. And so you were executive pastor through this entire pandemic until just a few months ago. And you know that we began focusing on the health of the team because the health
Immediately.
of the team
Yes.
was not doing well.
I think we knew
saw.
how we were doing, and so
Yeah.
we knew they weren't doing well
Exactly.
either.
They weren't doing well because we knew we weren't
Right.
doing well.
If the leaders were not doing well, then
Yeah,
they
this
needed
is
help too.
Crazy making.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right off the bat, we knew we needed to focus on this seriously. So what's something we did right off the bat that gives some people an idea?
Well, obviously, we were all quarantined and home. And so we began a 9:00 check-in
Yep,
every day.
that's right.
I think at that point we were working, we checked in 5 days a week, I think.
We did.
Is that
we
right?
Did.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we needed
Because
to connect
normally our
every
work day would have been Sunday through Monday or through Thursday.
Yeah.
But we added that Friday in there because we wanted to make sure, we wanted to look at each other in the eyes.
That's right.
Right.
And
Even
make
if it
sure
was through Zoom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and make sure that we could really assess how everyone was doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I remember that as we were walking through that, it was critical for me as the lead pastor. And that's one of the things that we want to be able to draw out in this conversation is the perspectives from a staff perspective and then a lead perspective. And I know for me, I just knew that when there's not a healthy team, that this is just not going to end up in a good place. None of us knew how long this was going to go on for, but we all knew this was a massive disruption.
Right.
And And so we knew healthy had to be there, but we were focusing on health before the pandemic. So it's not like it
True.
was just
Yeah.
out of the blue.
Yeah, it was not something that wasn't common to us, but
Yeah.
we had to step up our measures
Yeah.
in how we did it.
Yeah. And we literally began asking, how are you doing?
Right.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
And we wanted an answer. It wasn't like, we
doing
wanted
great.
an answer.
Yeah.
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 Well, and I think it wasn't just how was the individual that was on our staff doing. How was their family doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was going on in
Yeah.
those around them?
Oh, yeah.
Because that whole community piece became so valuable
Right.
to really assess and to keep tabs on one another and to really know how to pray for and carry one another.
That's true. That's
During
true.
that time.
We did a lot of prayer with one another. I remember we would do that as an overall team when we
Right.
gathered together. But as the executive pastor, I know you were meeting with people one-on-one, and you were doing that same with
Right.
them more in a private setting. So,
I think prior to that, I always had one-on-ones.
Yeah.
But prior to that, it was more, how are we doing in your work role, your ministry role? Of course, we care about people and their families. They're
Yeah.
part of our congregation as well. But then it became vitally important that we check in on how is your spouse? How are your children? What's
Yeah.
going on with your grandkids? Those things became a big deal
Yep.
at that point.
yeah. Yeah, and I know that can be challenging for senior leads because they think, well, they need to just take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And I think my advice, what I would learn, what I would do the same, is I would keep asking the question, how's your spouse doing?
Yeah.
How are your kids doing?
Right.
Because it paid dividends
It did.
whenever they were able to say they're not doing well. And they didn't have anybody else to tell.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, the divisions were already starting. I mean, early on, they were already divisions starting, and a lot of those were happening in families. And so I'm really glad that we leaned into that and we asked that question.
Well, we all needed someone else to help carry.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what it was. We
yeah.
needed to know someone was there to help carry us
Yeah.
for a bit.
Tim, you were staff team at that time. You were student ministries pastor. What was that like for you, knowing that we were asking, that we were venturing there?
Well, everything we've said was so beneficial to me continuing to feel connected, not isolating, but then leading a family at home.
Yeah.
It was good then I could take that idea of what we were living out every day through Zoom at the time and those questions we were asking. I could turn and ask those same questions to my family, my wife, my two boys.
Yeah.
So on a family level, it helped me engage with them because I realized if I'm struggling, they're struggling.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a senior in high school who couldn't graduate because, he graduated, but it was like, here's your diploma.
Right.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a train wreck for him.
Right.
And then, freshman, he was like, is this what high school's all about? This is horrible. And then, from a work perspective, I just turned around and then I'd have my own meetings with my staff, staff that was, on staff at church, but also like all of my volunteers. And then my volunteers could take that and then reach out to all of their life groups or their small groups of students that they were overseeing and walking with.
Yeah.
So this great trickle down effect. We led by example. And once we felt it, I just knew it was vitally important to just let that work its way through the ranks, so to speak.
Yep.
And so, it was good.
Yeah.
It was really, really good and tedious at times every day on Zoom.
Yeah. You're
You know,
like, do we
trying to
have to meet again?
I know,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
and Zoom was new, and you're
Right.
trying to deal with, the dog running around and
Exactly.
kids, so it's like you're trying to stay focused. And
Your dog, Hank.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Hank's all over the road, and then you have kids who, what are you doing? And I'm in a meeting, and so it was good. At the time, it felt like again, but looking back, it was so crucial to our connection as a team moving forward.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Can you imagine going through this and not asking, how are you doing? For someone to wake up months in and realize, wait a minute.
Where am I? It would be the question. Where am I?
These people aren't,
Yeah.
they don't even care.
No.
And I know we're a church, so we're supposed to care,
Right.
but I'm here to say that as a leader, this is a question we need to be asking to our teams.
Right.
We should have been asking it before the pandemic. I don't care what business you're in,
Right.
but now especially so. Do you even care about me?
Right.
And I wonder if some of that, honestly, is what's fueling all of these people who have left their positions and are looking for brand new ones. I mean, the great resignation that's happened in American business, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is the entire reason, but I do know people who have specifically said, this showed me something about the people I work for, the culture that I'm in, and it's not anything I want to continue with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Isolation's not good.
Isolation's not good.
Well, I know for me, I live by myself, so that check-in was vital for me on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's good.
Honestly, some mornings I didn't want to get on Zoom because as a girl, you have to do a lot more than you guys do to get on Zoom.
It took a lot to get my hair wet.
I'm sure it did. But it was vitally important to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's funny. Well, that kind of comes back to our second one, which is over communicating.
Yes.
I would do this the same, but I know many people rolled their eyes every day. We're like, I gotta do this again.
No, I was
never
in
did
it.
that.
Yeah, sure. As you just rolled your eyes. Yeah. Like, seriously, we're going to have to get on here again.
Right.
I remember being asked, like, just a couple of weeks in, do we seriously have to meet every day?
Yeah.
Right.
And what was our answer?
Yes,
Yes.
we do.
Yes. I mean, you and I
did it.
had these conversations.
We did.
Do we need to do this?
Yeah.
And we kept saying, yes, we do.
Yeah, we felt
Yeah.
it necessary just to stay connected.
Tim, as a staff person, your perspective on this, even if you didn't really roll your eyes, which I'm pretty sure you did, are you glad we do it? Would you do it the same?
Yeah, because, one, again, I talked about this a minute ago, like being on Zoom for a lot of us was a new experience and there's a lot of distraction. So it's easily something is being communicated and you're just like, like you said, squirrels, juggling knives. It's like, whoa, hey, what's going on? And so having it in an email, having it in a text, talking about the next day, checking in how to see how it went, that accountability, is like, I mean, also what happened is someone would say something and either myself or any others, wait, what was that? And then some of them be like, well, we've already talked about this 3 times, but for some it was the first time.
Yeah, because they weren't listening the first 3 times.
They were rolling their eyes.
They were rolling their eyes.
Yeah.
They were doing their hair, apparently. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
It's super
That's
important.
good. No, but it's true. We were making decisions daily
Yes.
that had massive implications and affected every staff person.
It did.
And so we always had something to say.
Right.
It wasn't just, hey, what you up to?
Yeah.
What kind of coffee
And
did
how
you
many
make
times?
today?
How many times did we in a week change our game plan?
Oh, yeah.
Goodness.
So you had to over communicate because you may have made a shift.
Yes.
Right.
And that is vital to how we're doing our online because that's all what's available to us.
Yeah.
How we're ministering and reaching out to our volunteers and to our ministry leads and different things like that.
Yeah.
So it was changing all the time.
It was. And from a senior lead, I was being asked why way more than I've ever been asked.
Right.
And I understand. It's the right question. And I needed to communicate it. But oh my goodness, both you and I, Cheryl, we were answering that why question constantly.
Yeah, constant.
But it was okay because that why kept changing. The priorities, they were literally different from one day to the next.
True.
And so the over communication had to happen because otherwise people would have no idea what we were up to, what we were doing at all. Yeah. So I would do that the same. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. There was this one thing I'm seeing in our notes, this idea like really, you can be all over the road with, communication and over communicating and people are trying to figure out, but there was the one thing, which is like our number 3 here that really kind of brought everybody together to realize we're doing this together.
Yeah.
And that's that whole idea of like anchoring to an image.
Yeah. Anchoring to an image. Yeah.
Because that was key. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking about that. And yeah, I think what happened early on was I was so disoriented.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty visual, and I just felt like I need to think about this different because before I was thinking, okay, I know what a team is. I know what a team is. I'm a football coach, coached 12 years of high school football, love it. I think about a team. I think about, being on a hike and we're all together. And that was already kind of how I thought about leadership and leading people on a hike. And then I realized these things don't work anymore. This is not happening. This is not how I can think about it because we are all so fragmented.
Yeah.
We're all so fragmented. And literally, even though I'm over communicating, there's a whole lot of people that aren't around to be communicated to. Not our staff team necessarily, but with the overall church and organization. And so I kept trying to find an image that would work. And so the first image that came to me was this image of the climb up the mountain. I mean, obviously all of us have been thrown in front of a huge mountain, so that wasn't hard to figure out. But I remember the day I actually drew it out on my whiteboard in the office.
Yep.
And for some reason, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what to draw next. People. Okay, I need to draw people. Where are we at? I drew people. And I'm like, well, okay, that's where I'm at. This is where our staff is at. And then there's this group. But what about that group? What about that group? And I literally drew a picture of the staff leading the way. And then down this mountain is just strewn a whole bunch of people all the way to the bottom of people staring at that mountain saying, I'm not even sure I want to climb it with you.
Right.
And I knew that people had already made that decision.
They had.
I'm not climbing with you. And over decisions that we made to either open, not open, do you think this whole thing's real or not real? Remember that? I mean, there were a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, regardless of how anybody thinks about it, you got a massive group of people, which at that time was about 3,200.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're trying to communicate to them, and they were not on the same page.
Yeah.
And so this idea of the climb up the mountain and realizing, okay, I thought, all right, when we arrive at Easter, when everybody's going to show up
In
3 weeks from now,
3 weeks.
right? I was kidding. This was after that happened. We had way past Easter by this time. And I remember thinking, wait a minute, I've got this group down here, I got this group down here, and I'm really upset with them, and I this, that, and they've hurt my feelings, and I got told off by that guy. That person gave me the finger. And then this person loved me and gave me a big hug. They're all wonderful. It was such a bizarre swirling of feelings and emotions. And I remember thinking, when we get to the top of the mountain, what's going to happen with those people who are coming in late? And I remember the Lord really challenged me with that question. And I wanted to say, I'm going to tell them off.
They should have been here all along.
Yeah, but I knew that was the wrong
you?
answer. You can't say that in Sunday school, so I knew you couldn't say it to the Lord. And so it was that idea. It was like, you know what? You're going to say, welcome home.
Yeah.
Welcome home. Yep.
And I remember saying to our team,
I do remember this.
hey, 2 years from now, and I had no idea I'd be that accurate.
Right.
2 years from now, when people start walking into camp, hey, we've been at that summit for 2 years, but when they come in 2 years from now, we're going to say, welcome home.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of a person right now who has rejoined our serving teams on the weekends. And I remember she came to me and she actually said, I'm sorry. I was one of those who bailed early.
Yeah.
And I apologized. And I just want to come back. This place means the world to me. And we just said, welcome home.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? It's fine. You're welcome home. It helped me give grace to people in a way that I was not sure I could give before. Just the image was helpful. So I think that image was helpful to me. I'm just curious how that might have helped the two of you. Maybe it didn't help you at all. You're like, what image are you talking about? I don't even know. Did you say that?
Well,
Liz?
I think, the climb of the mountain helped us to grasp the fact that we're back at ground zero now. Because before the church had been in existence for a good while.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
We were
like 10,
11 years old.
11 years old.
Yeah, 10.
And
10.
yeah, and so we felt like we had figured out who we were basically and who our audience was, who our congregation was, always welcoming new people, but all of a sudden this leveled everything.
Yeah.
We had to figure out how to reach people differently. And so another image that you gave us was that we're pioneers.
Yeah.
And that was another anchor, honestly, that helped us to understand we can do this differently than we've done it before. Actually, we probably need to do this.
We had to.
That's
need
right.
to do it differently
Yeah.
than we've done it before because what was is no longer.
Yeah.
And how do we continue to thrive in the midst
right.
of all the chaos and the pandemic?
Which is what this compass is about. I remember giving this to the team in August of that first year. And I gave it to us because we realized that it's up to us to pioneer the new trails. The maps are not, we can't assume they're accurate anymore. The gospel message is the same. But how we share this is different. How people are willing to hear it is different. What we're going to do as a church is different. Online, everybody was against it.
Right.
until we couldn't meet in person. And then everybody
It's
was
true.
like, oh, I love online. I'm so glad we have some option
Yeah.
here.
You had vision for online 2 or 3 years
Yes.
before. We
Yeah.
had been working towards that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we were left with no other option.
Yeah. And I remember people saying, that'll never be a thing.
You're right.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then it became the thing.
It is
yeah.
the thing.
Yeah. But the compass helps us. We're always going to find true north. He will lead us, and he has.
Yes,
does.
he has.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sure
Doesn't mean
he
we did it
has.
all right, but there
Right.
are some things we do different, but that's a different podcast.
Another
Right.
episode.
All right. So those images, they were helpful.
They were
I hope
extremely
they could be
helpful.
helpful for
Yeah,
others.
I think
yeah.
so.
That's good.
Another thing we looked at is immediately we had to figure out how to redefine certain roles and how to
Oh, yeah.
change some job descriptions because
Yes.
certain things weren't needed anymore and other things were needed. I know for me personally, I had to figure out where my gift mix was and not be involved in certain things that, like online. I didn't want to teach to a camera. I didn't feel like I could do that well.
Yep,
And
yep.
so we.
That's
oh,
true,
sorry.
that's true,
We
that's
have
true.
other teaching team people come in. You
That's
know,
right.
I just said I got to back out of that for now. Probably
Right.
my own fear, but
That's right. Tim was able to step
Yep,
into that.
stepping
That
in.
worked really well. He loves being on camera. He's
he
a
does.
camera
He's
hog.
good at it.
So he was all good at that.
Mr. Animation.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. No, but it's true.
No, it's
Yeah.
true. That
The
wasn't
roles
the only
changed.
role, but we
Some-
had
yeah.
to be aware that there needed to be a shift.
Yeah. Right.
And who could present best in
Yes.
certain situations and circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Who were the players for that season?
yeah. Yeah. People had to be flexible.
Absolutely.
Oh, gosh,
All of
yes.
us had to be flexible.
I know that like in the student ministries department, everything we did before the pandemic was, the kids would show up midweek, beautiful program, full band, all the speaker, all that fun games. And then now all of a sudden in the drop of a dime, the role shifts and now you're a content creator learning how to film and upload and trim and get the stuff on a YouTube page and your Instagram. And that's, maybe your youth guy was younger than me and that was like easy, but here I was at that time, 49 years old
Right.
going, I'm a content creator.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Good.
But then it just, you
Tim's
have
an
to,
Instagram star.
Yeah.
yeah, I hope I'm not a star, but anyway, but what you do is then, redefine those roles. You ask a lot of questions, you get super curious, you figure it out.
That's right.
But I never thought I'm a content creator.
Yeah.
And I'm managing this thing that's online now.
Yeah.
But you have to,
You do.
because the people matter.
That's right.
And that's it. It was like, how do we reach?
How do we reach?
Our reach has to shift, and how
Yeah.
do we continue to have a reach and have impact in their lives?
That's so true.
It was so vitally important.
This is about us, but it's not about us. I mean,
Right.
it's about us in that we are in a world of pain.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is not about us. We're
about-
here for others.
Right.
And we've got to be able to deliver this to them in a way they can hear it.
Right.
Yes.
Correct,
And,
yeah.
and the way that they will hear it somewhere on that mountain.
Yeah. So it's just about having the flexibility to be asked and step into new things and
Right.
do things
Yeah.
differently. And what has proved to be beneficial in that, a byproduct, is that we're still not afraid to try something new.
Yeah.
But you gave us permission for
Yeah.
that. So
Yep.
that
Yep.
helped us. I know another thing that we did as a church staff is we immediately you had the vision and worked with Laura to get our daily devotionals going.
Oh, yeah.
And so that has continued
Yep.
on. We still have a great
still
reach
have
with
it.
that.
Yeah.
All these,
Every day.
two
a couple
years later.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because we had to, how can we help people daily?
How can we contact?
Once a week's not
Yeah.
enough.
No, right.
They need it every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It
that was
proved
important. Jennifer,
very
our children's
meaningful.
pastor, started doing a kids show.
That's
She
right.
learned how to do all of that.
Yeah.
She
learned. She didn't know
learned.
how.
No,
She
Yeah, no.
learned.
We didn't know how to
Yeah.
do these things, but we learned.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
That's
And
how we
I would say
connected
is you
with
just
the
think
kids. I
through
love
every
it.
department, every
good.
single
Everyone.
department,
Yeah.
redefine their roles all the way down to our production team who is
Oh,
always behind
goodness.
the scene.
Yes.
Now for being in person, now it's all of a sudden, hey, we gotta get this out online.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, let's figure it out.
Let's figure
and
it out.
everybody's role changed and
Did.
Yeah.
it's still evolving.
Right.
But-
and I loved that our team was able to say, "Hey, that's okay because I'm here.
Yep.
I'm here to be the most help that I can be in the moment. So what can I do?"
Right.
And we were doing
We all did
we
different
were
things.
holding lights, we were
Yeah.
holding
yeah.
cameras, we were It was hilarious, actually.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I didn't sign up. This isn't my
Yes.
job description, but it is now my job.
It's what
It is
was
Yeah.
required.
It is now my job.
That is now my job. Yeah, I love
sure.
that. Okay, so a couple of more here,
Yep.
and then we're gonna wrap up with a challenge here. We did make a commitment to an online campus as a
Yes.
church.
Yep.
I would do that again.
Right.
Not just for the short
definitely.
term, but for the long term.
Right.
Right.
And we'll talk about that on another episode, but I would do that again.
Yes.
And that actually today still serves us with about half of our church is
Yes.
still connected to us because we made that commitment.
Right.
And we are still in that commitment.
Right.
Another one is teamwork. We were going to do this as a team. You know, this is not about a bunch of, one person
Yeah, no
sprinters.
silos.
There's no silos.
That's right.
We're all coming together. And that was not easy for everybody, but it was what had to happen. And it did reveal some things. Yeah,
True.
it did about our organization.
Yeah.
And there was some silo work
Yeah.
that we needed to do,
Right.
but we did it.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we're stronger today as a team than we were. And we were strong before, but
Yeah.
we're much stronger today than before the pandemic. So I love that. Cheryl, you could help speak to this one. We took the witness to the city seriously.
So our efforts to
would
reach
do
out
that
to our schools
Yes.
was amazing during this time.
Yeah.
You
We
know,
really
a lot
leaned
of
into
students
that.
were having to do school online. Parents were homeschooling.
That's right.
In our particular community, a lot of the students didn't have headsets so that they could do that online piece.
That's right.
I don't remember the number.
right.
You probably do. How many?
Yeah.
How many headsets we purchased for the kids?
Yeah, we almost 2,000.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, we literally made first, second, and third grade happen,
Yeah,
for our,
in this
our school
area.
system.
Yeah,
Right.
entire school district.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was powerful.
It was
Awesome.
amazing, and the schools couldn't believe it. We just leaned in and said, "How can
Yeah.
we help?"
And even during that season, teachers were on campus, not on campus, back and forth, remember?
Yep.
And so we did baskets and we did different
Gift baskets,
gift
yeah,
baskets
yeah.
for the teachers. I remember I went to coffee with the principal of one of
right.
the schools, just fabulous, connection there. Our
Got to
outreach
pray.
community just did a great job
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very important that we kept our witness to the city and
Yeah.
how we talked about being closed to in person. That mattered. And I remember coming out of COVID when we actually, when we came to in person. And I remember that before we were actually supposed to be able to do it,
Yeah.
reaching out, and I won't be able to say publicly to who, but reaching out to some people that matter in the city and just saying, hey, we're thinking about coming back. What do you think? And I remember what they said. They said, you know what? We know which churches have been supportive, who's been helpful. You guys have been amazing. And if you guys came back, you have our blessing. I can't say it publicly,
Yeah.
but you have our blessing.
Right.
And what a great relationship we were able
Yeah.
to build through this whole thing, through hardship
Yes.
Right.
that we're still enjoying today.
Yes.
And so excited that we have that.
Yep.
So excited we have that. That's really good. And then we talked about it already, but this last one we're going to say, what would we do the same, think about the same, is that we get, permission was given to fail fast. And
Yeah. We had to get curious fast.
Yeah,
did.
we did.
And so we had to take risks.
That's right.
Calculated.
calculated risks.
But that means it's not going to work because
Some
we're,
things that
we're
won't work.
pioneers.
We're pioneers.
charting new
Yeah.
territory.
That's right.
And sometimes you head in a direction where you go, nope,
That's right.
I got to go this way.
won't
And I mean, we even did it this morning.
That's right.
And we celebrated,
celebrated those
failures.
failures.
Yeah. Ask them,
Standing
hey, what have you
ovations,
done
clapping.
that's failed?
Yeah. Yeah. Because we know it's
Yeah.
not just like because they're not doing their homework or just because they're thinking through it. They've done the homework, they've done the research. All right, let's give this a try.
Let's do it.
But what that does is allows us not to remain stuck.
Yeah.
It allows us to be a pioneer and
That's
forge
right.
new ways forward.
Venture
And
out.
that's exactly what needs to happen.
That's right.
So you got to celebrate the failures so they're not fearful of the failures.
Yeah, yeah. It is especially true with student ministries and
Yep.
children's
Yeah.
ministries. So many of the ministries of the church, we just have to think about it differently, and it's okay to fail. I just want us to be trying.
Yeah.
What's over that next hill?
Right.
because again, we're pioneers. That's good. It's important. Okay, so a couple of challenges as we wrap up. What would you do the same? As we're listening in and you're thinking about the pandemic and how you experienced it, what would you do the same? There are things you would do the same. Well, it's important to know those because as you know them, history has a way of repeating itself. And we're building on the things that we realized we would do those the same. We identified them, and now we're building on those, and you can do that as well. And if you're not really sure, if you haven't really had this conversation, and even if you are pretty sure as whatever role you have on your team, get some other people involved and let them start thinking about this question with you. Because I know this is just our list. What would be on your list? Well, that's an important list that is good for your context. And let other people add to that list so that you guys can determine this. I would do this again.
Yeah.
Because there's a good chance that there'll be opportunity for us to have to do it again. And let's just do our best to have these conversations so that we can truly learn from one another. Because there's not one person who has all these answers.
That's right.
There's a lot of answers we have yet to find
Right.
as an American church right now coming back. And so as we are forging ahead, we hope that our story of the good and the bad and the ugly today, this real conversation about leading people, organizations, and change has been helpful to you. And so we can't wait to see you for our next episode. But I want to just say thank you to Cheryl and Tim for hosting with me today and for being able to share your perspectives. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.